Siyabonga mfowethu,
Ah,
siyabonga mfowethu, siyabonga mfowethu.
selibuyela fika usuku.
Hayi mfowethu, hayi lesikhathi siyashesha bra wami, hey.
Asidlali nawo futhi.
Hayi
Kuyasetshenzwa.
asidlali noma. Hayi sivele sisheshe ngendlela emangalisayo bra wami.
Hayi no, asihamba. As long as masisaphila nje, hayi konke okunye amanzi amancane.
Hayi injalo mfowethu, injalo mfowethu. Otherwise right bra wami.
No, ngabe nginamanga. I can't complain. It's
Yeah.
been a good week, good half at least. So we're hoping and praying for consistency ukuthi nakhona solivala kahle. But yeah, no complaints from my end. I'm
Well,
aces.
nangu president ke uselivule ilizwe kusukela ngomsombuluko, so it must be good going forward now.
Ngithi yabona ke. So yeah, progress. But yeah, no, tonight is the night. I'm in my feels. Because this is this is something that I know personally now. I've been entertaining a lot as of late from various perspectives, but more specifically in the romantic setting, in the romantic situation, man-woman relationships. So the fact that we're talking about it now, I feel like that's kind of divine game. So I'm happy about that. But I think this is another one of those unpopular and naked conversations that we must have. So Savelesati relationships.
Look, I mean, Joe Bingshiro last week that as part of the with this being a 4-part series, week 2 and week 3 are for you to choose. So you chose a very tough one. I thought mine was tough last week. God, I let it go even tougher. But I guess the same disclaimer, Ndie, that we have been putting out for the past 2 weeks, and we thank those who have joined us and who keep joining us. Thankfully, President Usekhulume waqeda, so we hope more people will join us and the numbers will increase as we proceed, But I just want to, once again, lay my thanks to you for opening up this conversation and for us conceiving this that we are doing now in September. Some people, but you should continue beyond September. As we'll see where it flows. We'll see what happens, Yeah, there's no pressure. No pressure. Yeah, but I mean, relationships is a tough one, Ndie. So I don't know. You can go ahead first, my brother. As a person who prepares, namhlanje I'm barely prepared. I'm barely prepared because I didn't know how much to prepare today. I just thought I would speak off the cuff and will encourage the participation as it always has been with abantu abakhona lana ngoba anyway we're just sharing our thoughts, we're not experts in this, we're just sharing our thoughts.
100%.
And the thing, so
the thing with Lena too is because in light of recent events, however you want to look at them, I've been drawn to noticing and paying attention to a relationship that umuntu wesilisa has emanating from family, whether uwe no mama, uwe no baba, uwe no sisi, uwe no mzala, nieces and nephews, trickling down to external relationships, you and your friends, you and your colleagues, connecting to when I know no romantic partner wako, and then in the eventual state of things, you and the child. So I've been closely, even for the past couple of years, not even just recent events, for the past couple of years, I've been noticing and observing in movement, yomuntu wesilisa in these different spaces, in these different contexts, husband and wife, father and son, father and daughter, man and sister, and I've found some very interesting discoveries, which are very common in a lot of men, like a common thread, the way we move, the way we see things, and so I said, okay, if we want to talk about this, then obviously relationship is the given. Everyone wants to talk about the romantic element. But I find it also interesting for us to kind of sit into that light of relationship yakho nabantu besekhaya before uphume ekhaya, uyimele now njengendoda, the relationship that you have even as a boy with abazali and the role that you play in that space. So I think it's important, but I think that informs a lot of our character. That's what is and how we present ourselves to the world, and then, you know, connecting to that. So yeah, I think your point of departure is I bail up. Man,
okay, look,
relationship with the family.
Yeah, look, Ndie, I think it's important for us to start off like this, you know, to say that, I mean, some things one can assume it's a given, yeah, but having seen how I've operated over the past 2 weeks, I just like to lay a foundation and just to be a bit more clearer, you know. So the elements that you speak about relationships with self, I mean, relationship with family, relationship with your parents, children, and ultimately, which will be the penultimate of this conversation, the romantic relationships. One needs to first establish, you know, do we as men have an appreciation? Do we first have a deliberate appreciation? Do we have a concerted appreciation of relationships, or is it just a by the way thing, you know? Because you can't assume that we efforts to maintain any or all of these relationships, you know. And maybe that's where I want us to start, in fact, to say, are we really intentional about the relationships? But we can speak about the romantic relationship where there has to be intentionality, if that's a word to be used. But for all these other elements that we've spoken about, which will form the smaller parts of this conversation, are we really intentional? And are we as men like abantu besifazane? Because women, but they make it a point. Mine abangani, they have date nights. Not even date nights, excuse me, girls' nights out, where they go out. So for us in Mhlambi Chisanyama and etc., is it deliberate or is it just something that happens because of our culture? So on my side, and I'll just speak from my side, Kule, talking about the relationship nabangani. I think when I used to do it, you know, and when now I treat this very differently, but when I used to do it, at the time when I did it different to how I do it now, it was just in, you know, passing time, you know, it's okay, get to be nama out and hanging out and shama pia, sikhuluma izinto esikhuluma ngazo, inyuku, amacheri, na yonke into le khulunywa ngayo, yabona, that forms part of the conversations yamachita, you know, and gossip as well, because things that can be gossip. So why not do all of those things at that time? So, but now I'm very intentional about how I maintain my relationships with my immediate friends, you know, with the people that are part of my life, to an extent that the circle is now very small. I can count them all on one hand, you know, and that's how intentional now I've become with those kind of relationships. I know that if Kuguti, I need someone, I know who to call. Unlike having 50 people on your phone booking wash every weekend, but I don't know who to call when I have a problem. And that on its own is a problem. Being in those little scheme, but you don't know who to call on, what kind of relationships are those, and are they really intentional? So this is where I speak about the intentionality of relationships, and I start from that point, you know, and that has been my experience. But where I am now, I maintain serious relationships to an extent that I know when I'll have a braai, or when I'll have a gathering, or when I go out of here, who am I going to? And if ngingapumi, I'm not going to anyone, because the people that I would go out to, maybe they're occupied or but I know them off the top of my head. So the intentionality now is there from my side in terms of maintaining those kind of relationships.
Angazi noma isignal lethi namuhla unokubreak every now and then, so angazi noma into edlulayo noma just a disclaimer about putting it out there. Ngiyakuzwa, and I'm called to recollect to khona le references jalo ukisho ukuthi abantu besilisa are so simple that we can make friends very easily.
Sure.
Uma ngihamba nomuntu wami and she introduces me to upartner kamuntu wakhe, me and Ubafo can get along.
Just
So
click it off. Yeah.
once you might we'll talk about this, that, and the other. And what you're saying, Manje, is pulling me back to that and having to interrogate to see those relationships. Are we intentional? Are they actual relationships that we're investing in and growing? Or are we just moving on a surface level? Utandi ball, I like you ball. Okay, Umunda Ronaldo, I like Ronaldo, and then your relationship here to work good, and we're friends based on that. However, as one evolves and one moves and life happens, we told to the people that you can actually have conversations about real things with, those numbers start shrinking and shrinking because you have 50 good friends that you can call when there's a party or but when there's family issues, when there's personal dilemmas, when you need a real confidant and a real one, because now even as you go through your contact list, you're like, okay, no, I can't call Ngobani. Ngobani, we only call each other when we're doing clubs. I can't call Mangman, Spanban, and not this person. And then you start realizing you really don't have any genuine people that see you in a intimate or unfiltered space. So it's interesting, we can maintain large or many relationships, the depth and the authenticity and the intention, I like that word, the intention that we put into these relationships is minimal. We talk about any and everything, but seldom is it ever anything ever real. It's light, fun conversation, conversation, anything to set the mood and kill the vibe. So no, it's a couple of laughs, but the real issues, seldom do they come out in long relationships, because again, the intention here is minimal, and I think that's noteworthy ngoba trickle effect to noma sesiyahamba ke sesithola umuntu ozobambisana naye empilweni, umama noma usisi othize, that energy that you've been projecting in your other relationships, you apply.
You carry it through. Yeah, you carry it through. I agree with you, and I think that's maybe where as men, and as the series suggests, the new men, that is something we need to start thinking about, to say, who's into these 50 friends, that hypothetical number you throw. So I think that's maybe the seed that we're throwing out there, is the intentionality of the friend that we keep. So let's keep that on the top of our heads, I guess, as a machida, having a phone full of numbers but no substance is of no use.
I'm similar to you. Nami, I've cut down my communications and my engagements. A lot of people, and I would say and Noma, there's bad blood, but there's simply no purpose. And so any and everything I invest my time and energy into, it has to be long term, which is now the same whether Nkuluma with my male friends or my female engagements. I'm now in a place and in a space where no mundo sfazane. As umuntu wesilisa, there is that urge, you want to engage, you want to initiate conversation, you want to pursue. God, what I now realized, most of those times when you want to pursue, now I was to figure out. It's more so just the last of the moment. Hey, I have to go speak to her. So now I'm in a place where, and I have these conversations with my guys on the regular, but we're all on the same page. You would see, even before we were being or like, what's the end game? Once you meet her, then what? Once you get in her pants, then what? So all of these things, they bring to light the amount of time that you potentially are going to spend, and the worth of that time in your grand scheme. So when 100%. You actually have those conversations with yourself and you ask yourself, okay, Ndie, what's the end to that? Then you realize essentially a lot of these things, they're not worth your time. And your time would be better used elsewhere. That energy can be better invested in other places. So I think it's interesting, but again, and a lot of us don't move like that. Disclaimer: a
Yeah,
lot of
no.
us don't move like that, and it's something to be noted, right?
And once again, I go back to, that's why we are talking about the new man. What's this new man? What is it all about? At least from our perspective and from our level of wokeness and our awakeness. And you raise a very important point, which I guess leads us to our second point, which says, when you sit and have a conversation with yourself and say, why am I doing this? It brings to me a point, is what is your relationship with yourself? You know, what kind of relationship do you have? That is the first relationship that you must have before you have with anybody else out there, because it's to the extent of how you have the relationship with yourself that you project it outside. You know, it may be influenced by many things, but the level that we'd like to get to as a Machida is to say, what is my relationship with myself that will empower me then to be more circumspect, more intentional, more driven, more focused in the other relationships that we have. Because in all honesty, when that lacks, nothing will come together. You know, so I think as a Machida, we really now need to really take a backseat. I don't know. I've heard some sayings when I read. I mean, existing and start living. So you must start living with yourself first before you start living outside and start living other things. So when you expect other things outside, you must know that you can do them for yourself. So the relationship with self is a very critical one, grossly underrated and underrated in a sense that underrated in a sense that if you can't perfect that, or if you can't understand that, you're going to mess up everything else, you know. And are you still there? Oh, sasekhona, yeah. Beyikhathile kancane.
Yeah, you're not ngifrizilela.
Yeah, no, it's grossly underrated, and in it being so underrated, then it gives a big problem. So that's the one relationship that we must perfect. And maybe if nje kancane, and I've been speaking about this over the past 2 episodes, and again today I'll speak about it, to say that the importance when I understanding yourself of attending to your mental health, attending to the deeper things within you are the things that will help you to have a better relationship with yourself, because that being neglected, it's going to affect everything else. You get my drift, right? So let's try and fix that, fix that relationship with yourself, try and build it, try and identify it and understand it, because that then, I guess, will form a good basis going forward. And that's just my view and thoughts about it. It's a period or a journey that started last year, where I started trying to understand myself better so that I can be able to offer myself better. And I've seen that it's been working. At least I was more intentional about it than in previous times, where I was just living. So the moment I started being intentional, then things started changing, at least from my views, from the way I express myself, from the way I treat other people, from the way I think, because I know how I reason, and not reason, but how I consider other people, because I know now the relationship with myself, and it helps me then to apply myself much better as I go forward.
Yeah. How he agrees with you 110%. I think for the most part, as men, as males, we for the longest time have been very afraid of the intimacy that comes with the real relationship, whether sibuka from a relationship with self, normal relationship with family, relationship with women. There's a certain level of intimacy and vulnerability that's required of you in order to have a real meaningful relationship. And Tina, we've been very uncomfortable and very fearful and skeptical of that intimacy. Kangangu, even with our boys, our friends, our circle, it doesn't often happen where a real heart-to-heart exchange happens, Ngoba. It's still it's a weird thing to hear one of your guys express something from the heart to you. You almost feel like, hey, personal, almost deep, and it's almost like an invasive or invasion of your privacy or whatever, And so we kind of just mute that and subdue it. We say, nozoba emotional lana. Yeah, but even isn't it like ungiyabonga noma hey man, I haven't seen you in a while. I miss my friends. Nani. We have these other languages of expressing lezo zinto that seem less emotional. Ngoba it's weird. It's weird nakhona when your friends like, ngiyabonga mfethu azongisizile. That's kind of sesingcono vele sithi sure noma fereni uyidlalile mfethu. It's cooler. Like yeah, it doesn't it doesn't feel like this is it's nonchalant. And so I think isn't ey'ncane kanjalo, and then they have a ripple effect and they manifest into bigger things. And even when we go into our relationships, especially with abantu besifazane, that awareness of being vulnerable and being open is so intense that you constantly feel like you have to guard your image. You have to guard how you come across. You can't be overwhelmed with emotion a lot of the times. But hey, so you have to keep that mirage going. And no jabula njengendoda. Yeah, no muhleka njengendoda. Yeah, you can go wild, but don't lose yourself. Just keep it in there. And so I think naloko it restricts our influence and our presence in relationships. But rather than being in the moment and being honest and true, when there's a subtle thought in your mind, Uguti, is this appropriate for me to do? Is this maintaining my image? Is this in line with how Indoda is supposed to be? Is this in line with the man that I want to be? If how is she going to look at me? If I do these things, how is the community going to react? Yeah, well, so instead of being fully in the moment, you're in, but then at the same time, you're also thinking about how that looks to the outside world. So, ngiyafuna ukudansa, but mangidansa, they're going to look at me like so no, ngizovele ngihlale phansi. Yeah,
and it's a very tough one, you know. And like I say, I mean, when you get to a point of self-actualization and be more conscious about things, outside you should, even if you've got two left feet, it doesn't define how people look at you when you dance with those two left feet. When your relationship with yourself is perfect, you don't care anymore about those things because you're not defined by those things. Like we spoke about masculinity, if your masculinity is defined by what you have, then it's a big problem. Equally so, when that relationship with yourself is it hinges on how other people see you instead of how you see yourself, then that's a big problem, you know. And that's what we need to try and get through as men. And you know, it's I think it's a new dimension that we're introducing. They're out in parts, but the guy is expressing himself. The guy is just being himself and living and just doing all that which he feels he wants to do internally. But because of the judgments that are there and how you now look at things, then but it's because of that that perception of that relationship. And those are the things that I think when we need to really try and get over. But if you would allow me, let's just go to the next one. You know, we'll get to the romantic one at the end because that will be the apex of this conversation. I mean, so as Kumang, imagine we all come from families. You know, we all come from families, and we have relationships with our siblings. We have relationships with our parents. We have relationships with our children. We have relationships nabashana bethu. I mean, for myself, who does not have a child of my own as yet, but I have abashana and all of that. And how then, as a man, are you expected to show up in those settings? You know, we can talk about it from the parental home, you know, and then we can talk about it kubashana and everybody else around you. And those are some of the pressures that Amayama daughter then go under, you know. So I don't know, from your side, how do you manage such things? You know, I mean, I have my own way, and I guess experience has taught me certain things about how to deal with it. But I don't know how you Richards Bay kune-party kamshana yandoda I think kamshana wakho uyabona. Is that the expectation, Malum? Is that so? What are those things? I mean, those are the things that we grapple with as a madod, and I don't know what's your experience before I give you mine.
Yeah, I think I'm in a place where I've seen and I'm seeing and continuing to observe male and father figures before us, and the effect or the influence that they have on abantu around them, and then juxtapositioning that with the man or the father figure that I want to be, and the effect that that has on the people around me. So, manje, I find myself more lenient in certain, or dare I use the word lenient in certain aspects, or more receptive in the sense that imbono yami mina as uNdie, I will withhold them more often than I used to. Ngoba I've realized ukuthi, and no disrespect or judgment to Obaba, but they had opinions that were very frequently imposed on abantu that were around them. Opinions that were based on their personal views, their perspectives, and their experiences. Now, those opinions, they influenced and informed how other people behaved. They informed how other people saw themselves. They informed how other people respected or treated or expressed themselves. And so I've seen the ripple effect of that, of umuntu who comes from a place where they weren't free to be who they are. So manje, I'm now existing in a place where even with abashana and or cousin, for the most part, abesifazane and the boys as well, say dance in a space where I kind of not even allow, I let them be who they are. Okay, that I've kind of been there. It's now a conversation. I'd rather I give you inside words. I was once there in a similar situation. This is how it played out for me. Do with that information what you will. But if you need whatever, then where's what's in court? You know, so I think just providing them information while at the same time allowing them to make their own decisions. And when it comes to amantombazane, nakhona just showing them ukuthi umuntu wesilisa doesn't really have all the say over impilo yakho. I may be umalume wakho or whatever the case, but I'm still my own person, as are you. So I'll give you insight, I'll give you some perspective, whether you take it or not. Or wako, I'm only here to aid you. So if you want my help, I'm more than happy to do it. Kota futhi, if you feel you want to go through these things and you think you know the way, I allow you that space. So I think it's kind of finding that new balance of, and it's tricky about sometimes, especially we are born as in and you want to say as in, but at the same time, umuntu has to live their own life and make their own decisions. And I always make room which I can learn from my younger nieces and my cousins. I don't know. So now I'm experiencing but I have my eyes open when I see someone do it in a different way. I actually didn't know that. Okay, no, now I know. I'm glad you were brave enough to do that. So I think my relationships I mean, especially within the family context, I'm consciously working and maintaining Dokuwuti. I'm present, but I'm not dominant.
Imposing, you're not imposing,
But just that presence is important. Which was malum, was unomzal, was unoput. Whenever you need them.
Yeah, no. Look, I think from my side, so Devin, but. I think I have now assumed a similar position, and I say now because in my family, mainly in my paternal family, I'm the alpha. I'm the alpha male. I don't know how that happened, but for some reason, even the elders in the family look up to me and they engage me for difficult things, which somehow are beyond my pay grade or beyond my understanding, or it's things that I would ideally ask from them, but they come to me. So to a large degree, that used to irritate me and say, but why do you guys expect so much from me? Because Ogunye would come with financial expectations, Ogunye would come with support of many kind, but as I've grown and now as I understand, I'm getting to the fact I don't know it all, and I always say I'm not Uncle Google in any setting where I have the privilege to lead. I'm not Uncle Google. I don't know everything. That's my first point of departure. Secondly, in my family, I tell them that, look, what I say, I create an environment for us to have conversations about those things if they're putting it on my shoulders. And if they expect me to lead, then I say, look, guys, I mean, I don't know it all. I'll just give my best, and then I do that. But I must admit that at some point, before I had this change, I want to assume the position of Mr. Know It All and cool, I suppose, made one see, which, you know what, this is really not how things are supposed to be, you know, and it has now shifted the way that I relate with them, and my parents are late, you know, so I can't say how my engagement with my parents are, because I didn't have the privilege to be with them long enough to give it in a mind state where I'm deliberate about how I relate with them. But with those, that's the position that I take, my brother. So that's how I manage those relationships. I mean, on my side, and of course, I mean, out who think they still want to impose and push based on the masculinity topic and how we have been schooled in over the past weeks. But where I am right now, it's not something that I intentionally do, unless given the leeway to you tell us, you know. Then I always put a disclaimer: I'm not Uncle Google, I'm not an expert, but this is how I view things, and I leave it like that, my brother, because that is the difficulty in this thing, you know, to say you can't want to assume and know everything. So that's how I manage my relationships with my family, long and short of it, you know. Long and short of it, I get upset, but I choose to not care if this person is making their own decisions, you know, in that regard, my brother. You know, so it's an interesting one, and I like this. I like the space that I'm in right now with that one. You know,
it does. Le network yakubeka nalento, but interesting is real. My fear with Lendo is that it breeds a degree of entitlement, which
yes.
we're now seeing the dangers of. I think, again, in the assuming low position of, as you put it, Uncle Google, Noma Umuntu whose opinion triumphs everyone else's, it fosters a degree of entitlement as Umuntu sleeps daughter, because and you start feeling like, because umdala, your opinion has to be taken as the gospel truth. Because umdala, abantu have to do what you say, even if they have a different opinion, no matter they don't understand or agree with your viewpoint. And so I think that has fed our entitlement, specifically with abantu besifazane, because even if we go to something as trivial as a dress code, our insistence on having a voice on, no, intombazane igqoke kanje, intombazane ungagqoki kanje, that seed of when unelungelo lokutshela umuntu wesifazane ukuthi agqokeni, I think that's a dangerous thing. At face value, singakubuka ukuthi it's just clothes, noma kahloniphekile, noma and all of these things. But in the grand scheme of things, they feed this entitlement that we have, ukuthi mina engikushoyo, people will heed what I say they will do, and I have the authority and the position to say that over their own opinions. And that's the concern. It's fine, you can have an opinion, but if you have an opinion on my life, understand opinion is just your opinion. I have every right to accept it. I have every right to reject it. Kodwa ngeke ngithathe opinion or ngi-enforce ngoba i-opinion kaNqobani, ngoba i-opinion kaNdie. So I think our relationships are dominated by that underlying entitlement as abantu besilisa, as amadoda, ukuthi i-relationship yami nobaba, yami nomalume, if umalume said this, sekuphelile, I can't. It's the end, and that's why there's an imbalance in our relationships ngoba they're lopsided. You know, their foundation on fear, their foundation on insecurities and doubts for the most part. So awuphendula hayi ngoba ungafuna uphendula because uyasaba. That's not a healthy relationship.
Definitely not, and that's why understanding this in the context that you are putting it plays a very important part in the romantic relationships, which will be, I guess, the last part of this particular conversation for today, and that we're now going to go into the space of romantic relationships, to say that what position do you assume as a man in the romantic relationship, you know? Personally, before the expectation comes through from the person that you're with, what position are you willing to assume as a man in that relationship, firstly? Secondly, what principles do you bring into that particular space, you know, as a man in that relationship? What is it that you expect when you get into that relationship? And are you able to articulate your expectations well enough, you know? And you know, that I think the biggest mistake that happens, at least from my perspective, you know, and then we're going to unpack this one a little bit more, is uncommunicated, I guess, expectations that fall into this, that come into this, I mean, while we ride on the wave of love, there are certain things, certain conversations that we end up not having in these romantic relationships. And even when we do have these conversations, then and we said how we're going to operate, then they become violated, you know, how we're going to move forward as I mean, being the person that I am right now, you know, with the journey, how I'm articulating myself and how I'm thinking, there's a certain way that one presents and projects themselves, you know. And as men, how do we ensure that as we carry through these relationships with our partners, how do we ensure that there's a clear understanding, how to ensure longevity, how to ensure that we address things, how to ensure that we resolve things, you know? And then I have my views as well. You're going to just also lay down your opinions about this. But I think that's the most important thing that I think we lack. You know, so we just go on cloud nine, and then once the cloud moves from 9 to 1 and then to 0, it's very hard to go back and build up. And ila siqala khona kuthiwa kahle kahle amadoda afunani, nami ngithi kahle kahle abafazi bafunani, uyabona? So kuba nama-confusion. But then and that's where the biggest mistake then starts kicking in, you know, when we're not very clear about these things from the onset, you know, and that's my newfound view about these things. When my brother, remember the question and the point that you raised, when you approach someone, what is it that you're approaching them for? Funani, funa ukwenzani? Yonke le nto le. All of these thoughts will come, and all of these, not even thoughts, pardon me, but all of these things will come into your head when you start thinking about the relationship in the context of what is it that you want to achieve, you know. So yeah, that's just my views for now. And I guess let me just throw it back to you, and let's just have a conversation, and we're open to having people throw in their comments as well, so that we can just hear where they are, and we speak from our own experiences, we speak from our own knowledge, and we're just open to having a conversation, you know, with the people. Yeah, if people want to throw in their comments. I mean, my comment is I apologize for that, but yeah, that's that.
I think we, in so far as there's a lot to say about that, I feel like I don't have a lot to say in specifically with romantic relationships. Ngoba I think one of the root, if not the root issue here too, is, or the lack of presence. I don't think men are present enough in our romantic relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think we show up in our full capacity. I don't think we show up as we are supposed to or are expected to. I think in a lot of relationships too, uzothola ukuthi umuntu wesifazane is more present than umuntu wesilisa. Umuntu wesifazane is more invested than umuntu wesilisa. Umuntu wesifazane is more committed and loyal and dedicated to leyo relationship than umuntu wesilisa. Which now at face value, obviously one would look at infidelity, noma khwapheni nani nani. Yeah, okay, that's there too. But even if you extract one, the level of intimacy or relationship or connection that you have with umuntu wakho is informed by your presence in a relationship. So ngokwami, based on my observations, based on my experience, I'm stuck on presence. We're not present. Ngoba, another example, even in cases where you go through whatever you go through, nomuntu wakho, knee-jerk reaction would be to go out namajita and you vent out to the guys. We made loco, and we speak about our relationships and our partners as if they were livestock. And so our clique, they reaffirm the position yet. I know. And so that energy that we're taking to those spaces is energy that I believe should be taken and maintained within the relationship. So instead of being present nomuntu wakho and facing this challenge that we now have, this dispute, it's easier for me to go and vent out to the guys. And once the guys have listened to me, I'm now calm, I'm now rational, I have my sane mind on, and then I come back singing right. But I never communicated with my partner. I never resolved it with my partner. I went out to vent and express myself namachita. So where we're saying right, discuss. But I no longer want to discuss because I already talked about it with the guys. So I'm not fully present in this relationship. I'm some percent in, but another percentage of mine is still with my guys. So when izinto happen that I feel I don't or I cannot speak to you, I go speak to them, I solve it there, and then I come back and implement what was discovered or what was decided apparently, which is a weird phenomenon. But yeah, insofar as relationships, I think one of the most important things for me is presence. I don't think amajita are present enough. I honestly don't.
Indeed, that is a very true reality for the most part of gents, for the most part of gentlemen or amachit. It's a very true reality, and one cannot disagree with it. Very, very true. Many guys do it. But then, on the other hand, there is a portion or a section or at least a percentage of amachita who do the exact opposite and communicate, and are able to express themselves and are able to dissect and discuss the things with abosis. Then it then says, when you do that as a guy and then it's not received well, is it now your problem or does it become the problem of the woman? Because in talking about it kanjalo, the expectation is that OCC understand, and automatically they understand. But that assumption is not true, because it's not all of them who do that. It's not all of them who would speak about this in the way that you are putting it, to say that they are in a good space and they do that. I mean, I said at the beginning that they are good at maintaining relationships, but masekufika kulezo uthando mfethu ball game altogether. Vele nje kube nomhlangano nomqenqenqo ongawazi ukuthi uqhamuka kuphi, uyabona? So to take and carry the blame on the shoulders of men, for the most part, I would agree, but it's not all men who are like that. And I speak for that little minority as well, Ndie, to say, how then are those men then expected to still be able to express themselves? And this new man that we are trying to find and create and at least encourage, will he be accepted when he starts doing those things with the woman? Because then it's, to some women, a person who does that is a weak man. Then in showing his vulnerability, then ngizodlala ngaye, because I'm out saying bengimthanda lo muntu wadlala ngami, uyabona? And then that's another reality that exists out there. I mean, whether it's done intentionally by abosisi or maybe lo is too weak, is too soft. Nokuzwa amachera is soft kakhulu le ndoda le. Kanti ufuna indoda enjani? Uyabona? Ufuna indoda enjani? Manje siqinile futhi, hayi ikhali kakhulu le ndoda le. Uyabona? So I mean, it's a very complex and a tough one. Lana says accountability too is needed. I think she was responding to when you were talking, to say, she was saying that accountability when things are not right, you must be accountable for them. Yes, I agree with you. Accountability should be there. And maybe that's why we go outside and we have the conversation, namachita, in fear of having them with the people that we should be having them with. But when it does happen with those people and nothing changes, then where then is the problem? Because some men I mean, I'm very in touch with my emotional side. You know, I won't say feminine side because emotions are not feminine. Emotions are human. We discussed this very nicely last week. I'm very in touch with my emotional side, and when I reach into it, then you start questioning yourself. Guti, am I giving away too much? Am I being too weak? What's happening when I express myself the way that I am? How is it being received? Then you start saying those definitions of masculinity then come in, and all of those things then start kicking in and start playing in your head. And maybe that's why I'm a daughter, then we tend to struggle around these things, because you do it right, you do it wrong, you know, it's a complex animal, but I'm speaking for the guys on the other side of those that you spoke for, or spoke about rather. Who do it. So the question is, where do we find the middle ground? Where do we find the middle ground in all of this? You know, I know it's a tough one. You don't have the answer, neither do I.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I've lived on both sides of the spectrum. Where does one find the answer? And at this point, I'm on the softer side, but still, you know, you never know.
That's the thing. I'm pausing over. I'm configuring the words. I have been in a situation now in my lifetime where umuntu wesifazane said, Ndie udlala kancane, noma he's too slow, noma he's A, B, and C, as a lot of us have been, I'm sure, at some point. And what I realized from all my experiences to now, everything that's happening now, is you are 100% akwana madoda that are present, and fortunately, unfortunately, umuntu ahlangane nomuntu who's not that present, or who has their own background or perspective. I think what is an inescapable truth is, as much as we talk about broken black boys, masculinity, and boys posing as men, if we're going to be honest, and if we're going to do some real progress and healing, we must admit and confront the fact that there are broken girls, there are broken women. You know, as much as there are men who are traumatized and toxic, there are women who are traumatized and toxic.
Yeah.
So it's not a phenomenon or impossible for umuntu wesilisa or healthy ahlangane nomuntu wesifazane or unhealthy no more toxic.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon ukuthi ufike wena as indoda with the purest of intentions udlale umuntu wesifazane onama issues akhe, comes from wherever they come from. So that's something that I don't think we've ever tried to conceal. I don't think that's something that we can escape. Me, as personally, I usually talk from this side because I'm a man, and so I have to speak from the perspective of men. I'm not going to be the first in line to talk about my issues. However, that does not mean that I am unaware that women have issues too. You know, I just believe women will be the people who need to be at the forefront when it comes to healing women, in the same way as men have to be in the forefront when it comes to healing men. So I think that foundation and that knowledge and that insight is key, so that it's not everything that we're saying is not simply saying men are always at the fault, men are always wrong. Not even close to it. We just speak on that perspective because we're men. So what I was saying earlier on about Linda Bay presence is, even the energy that you put into a relationship, it counts for everything. So correct. I mentioned that word ngoba I notice ukuthi abantu besilisa you go into a relationship with 50%. I'm pulling the number out of my head. You put in 50%, and your woman, your partner, reciprocates and puts in 50%. However, when you receive 50% from her, that's unsatisfactory to you. So rather than work on building that and growing that, you will step out and have side chicks. Ngoba your girl is not as adventurous in the bedroom. Your girl is not as liberated when it comes to her dress sense. She's not as attentive when it comes to Lizizinto that these other girls seem to be. So now my conversation with my guys is, have you as a provider and a protector provided an environment for your partner that allows them to be comfortable enough to explore the next? Have you created an environment where they are safe enough and feel reassured enough, as in, I wanna go the extra mile, I wanna try this, I wanna explore this? Have you created that environment as umuntu wesilisa, or have you simply just half-assing your way, and then when that energy is reciprocated, rather than looking at yourself and saying, as it, I actually need to build this relationship to be even more intense, because umuntu is holding back, so I'm going to dive in. Instead of that, you'd rather, okay, sharp, you keep that relationship, and then you have these other relationships on the side because these other girls seem to be sexier than your girl. They seem to be more liberated. They seem to be more exciting than your partner. In a lot of cases, the issue is when, as umuntu, because again, this happens with women, it happens with men. There are a lot of things as men I wouldn't do in a relationship if I didn't feel confident enough, if I didn't feel like the space was safe enough. Certain things I just wouldn't do because I'm not sure about lo muntu enginaye, would this be a good fit? Is it worth going there or not? However, if the environment was solid and healthy enough, there are certain things that I never thought I would do, but I will do because this environment is conducive and it allows me to be that. And so even on the flip side with women, in our romantic relationships, are we present enough? Are we creating that environment that allows them to explore and dare to want to be better and want to evolve and grow? Nor are we simply just giving enough energy and enough time to keep them, and that's about it? The rest of our energy and time goes to everyone and everything outside of our relationships. So that's why I was mentioning the presence earlier on. I think it's key. It really is key.
I think the decision to be present when Ndie comes with intentionality. You know, if you're intentional about it and you are present, your actions should follow suit.
Yes, sir.
And then the expectation, obviously, then would then follow through without question. That are you then getting that back from where you come, within where you are giving it? You know, I had a conversation, a similar conversation with someone. Then, but is it not now a transactional? Is it not now of a transactional nature? You come from where you come from. I come from where I come from. We make a decision to be one. We make a decision to be in a relationship. We make a decision to give our time and give everything to one another. You know. Therefore, it must be clear what I'm in here for and what you are in here for, so that we can know that we are serving each other well, you know, and that we are serving each other well. It's not so much about being conjugal, no muntu. It's not about all of these other things, but what are the things that are to make you guys sustain and move forward, you know? And Fifi says it's not a transaction. It's called reciprocity. I agree with you, Fifi, 100%. And just being clear about what you want and then being clear, it clarifies a whole lot of things, you know, because you're not going to love me in a way that I don't want to be loved or that I don't feel, and I'm not going to love you in a way that you don't want to be loved. So to clear out all of these misunderstandings, you know, but Ndie, even with all of those things being done, you know, one would expect that it would then work out correctly. You know, I think it's also a question of the timing. Are you both meeting each other at a time where you're both able to speak this particular language? Are you both meeting at a time where when I say this, you can hear me, and when you say this, I can hear you as well? Because sometimes the timing is incorrect. You know, I can come through with all the grandest intentions, being open and vulnerable as the out, and it doesn't work. And equally so, made food now, so they do that and totally out equal up, you know. So mine always says that these conversations really need to be had at the beginning, so that we can be very clear about all of these things, and we lay down the foundation, and we know how we move forward, you know, as a couple, you know, as it were. I mean, with the intention of doing whatever it is that we said is bringing us together. Like I said, two people from different parts coming together for a reason. What is this reason? What is this reason? You know, and then we communicate the reason and we move forward.
The intention is key. Intention is key. I think intention more so
presence.
From yeah, intention also from the side of when you go into a relationship with umuntu. I'm a firm believer in you have to accept and understand ukuthi loyo muntu has the possibility and high potential to expose you to new worlds and higher truths.
Correct.
So
correct.
I go into a relationship with umuntu wesifazane not simply as alpha male Ndie, I know everything. I'm going to teach her young kid. I'm going to show her in. I go into a relationship, yes, as with a clear identity of who I am as a man, but also with the understanding and the acceptance of Wuti. There are certain things I have no idea about that this person can expose me to. And so that knowledge and that approach or that perspective allows me to invest more time, more energy, more presence into this relationship. Ngoba there is that, I don't want to use the word promise, but there is that possibility of evolving or elevating to new heights or new worlds. Ngoba I've seen personally firsthand the influence and the power of a relationship where abantu who are in it are entirely present. The frequency at which you vibrate when you are with someone who you are on the same page with, when you both are mutually committed and dedicated and present into making this thing work. I've seen individually as umuntu wesilisa and I've seen as umuntu wesifazane the growth and the levitation that takes place because bobabili, they are mutually investing a full amount of energy and presence into this thing. There's no space for any outside influence or individuals. When ungazama as a third party to meddle, but the whether we will call it the relationship, no matter the bond or the whatever, is so genuine, Uguti, there's no room for any external influence. And so that's why I was mentioning the presence. That's why I'm glad you brought up intention, Goba. I've seen that growth that can take place when you actually invest in umuntu wesifazane or in your relationship, you know.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's, excuse me, on the side of men, Gowa, I don't think our presence is sufficient. I might even go off on a limb and say I don't even think we see women. When I say that, but I stand by my words and I maintain that I don't think we see women. I don't think we see the women that we initiate relationships with. If you'll allow me, in the context of umuntu umbone as their own individual, and therefore with infinite potential or possibility. Tina, we will see a woman through our perspective and based on our opinions. If I see a certain woman and I think she's only capable of reaching heights A, B, and C, I will treat her as someone who is only capable of reaching heights A, B, and C. I will not see her in her own light as someone who has the potential to go the whole 9 yards. And so because of my energy and my effort coming into the relationship is kept. But I see her potential as being kept. So instead of coming into a space where and seeing someone and saying, man, this person could actually be anything that she wanted to be. This person has infinite potential. This person is an amazing or powerful force or fragment of the universe. And my energy and my treatment of her will be complementary to that. The amount of time I invest in being with her, because I see her as someone that can. But rather than that, we see them as, oh, she's probably going to be as good as this, or she's probably that level. I want to learn. Potentially, like, I kept it with my perception, and that informs how much I invest in that relationship. So that's why I don't think we see women. We see ideas of what we want them to be, but I don't think we see them as individual people.
Look, I fully agree with you, Ndie. I mean, I don't know, man. You just keep on speaking things that, and that's why we're having this conversation, right? Because you are explaining the outlook and perspective of men, you know, generally, and as a man who is espousing and who is doing their best to be better, I guess we probably have gone through those thoughts, but as one is growing, one is realizing, and that's the kind of man that you and I are, to say, actually, with the power that women hold, is more than we actually know and more than we actually see. But because of that patriarchal and masculine perspective and the perspective that the world has designed, it has somehow worked to contain them to how we want them to be seen. But I have a greater sense of appreciation of the potential of women. I mean, I speak again for the other side. You know, there are men who really do have that appreciation for women, and for you to make those comments,
100%.
it means that you're now seeing things differently, and that's why you're able to realize this. Oh, a person who lives in that world would not be able to express it like you have done. So for the guys that who do see it and who do have it, I think then it helps them then in expressing how they would be in their relationships. It helps them to become, I guess, better lovers in their relationships with a thorough and better understanding of what a woman is, of who she is and what she embodies and what she can do and her potential and all of these things combined, you know. And then this is where then this disjuncture that I spoke about earlier, to say, with all things said and done and all these things laid down, is the woman that you are with ready to receive? Is the woman that you are with ready to see when you come across as that particular man? And this is the thing that I guess damages or affects many men, you know, when they have that awakening, because it then says, then you must do even more work to say, even if I've done it and it doesn't work, then it's not me. Then it's not about me, because it requires a whole lot more. It's easier for you to just keep them, but there's nothing more that you expect. But once you do more and open up yourself, and it doesn't then come back and is seen in that way, in fact, it backfires, then you start then doubting and questioning and having a whole lot of things in your mind, you know. So it's really a tough one. I mean, these conversations and these thought processes that we are carrying and embodying right now in Ndie, I won't say they are new, maybe because they are new to us, but maybe they've been shied away from because of the complexities and the difficulties that come with them. To say, when a man does these things, when all of these things are done, how then is it received from the other side? And it's going to be a very tough and long thing to crack, you know. That's why amadoda abanamaqhinga na yonke lento, and mawunganaqhinga wena wenza kahle. So it's just a mess, you know. It's just one big royal mess, for the lack of a better word to use. But with this, we are hoping to get there. We are hoping to get to a point where we can be able to look, do and be the best that we can ever be. Whether it works, if it works, good. If it doesn't work, you know, clearly it didn't work, you know. And what you do then thereafter, I can't say what you do. You decide what you do then thereafter. But I think these are just the things that we are grappling with as a machita, you know. And it's tougher when you know what you want, you know. When you don't know what you want, because you know, when you know what you want, you're able to project it. And this is where women know more what they want than men, because, you know, when she tells you what she wants, then we are slicer. But when you know what you want, and then you say it and you put it, and then I spy, and then how then do you feel? It's just so I mean, to go back to my earlier comments and maybe my closing points around this one, I don't know. I honestly don't know if I'm just going through a whole lot at the moment, and I'm thinking a whole lot of things, you know, to say, are these conversations to be had when you get onto cloud 9, or do you have these conversations when you descend, and to say, how do we pick ourselves back up? Because there can be a lot of time wasted, there can be a lot of misunderstandings, there can be a whole lot of things that are missed, you know. Whereas if we're clear from the onset, then we move. Then we go on cloud 9 and we are sure what is up. There's no way to descend. We just maintain, or we go up. Or do we do then we come down? There's just so many things indeed, because there are those men who are at that point. There are those men who are like that. Equally so that there are those men that you have described. So it's just a very tough and a tricky one. As my brother-in-law likes to say, everything to him is tricky. It's a tricky situation.
it's true, but I don't think it's anything intention and presence cannot resolve.
Correct.
I
Thank you.
I've, I've heard too many, and I think we've all heard too many women say men don't know what they want or what does he want and blah 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 and all of these phrases. I think intention and presence. I think that speaks more than anything. And I don't know, but maybe it's my male privilege being revealed now, or but I'm seeing a lot of women, and it really is fun to see. It's interesting to watch. Women are now they're now owning their existence in corporate spaces, in social aspects. Women are now they're driving their own cars, they're owning their own houses, they're owning their own businesses, they're occupying the job spaces, which is incredible to see. And I only mention it in Goba. I'm from my perspective, I'm seeing the scales kind of tipping. I now know more successful women than I know men, which then pulls my attention to the relationship dynamics which are in front of me. Ngoba sengiyabona ukuthi, oh, in quite a few relationships, the woman is in a lot of elements more successful than umuntu wesilisa. Not in a competitive way, but bluntly put, she's owning and dominating her respective space, quite frankly, a little more than her counterpart. And so that is interesting. But now I'm seeing the dynamics change insofar as the breadwinner, the financial backbone, say power or influence within these relationships. But now men are with women who earn more than them. Now men are with women who have cars and they don't have cars. Now men are with women that have businesses and they don't have businesses. So that's interesting to me because I'm now having to see how that affects a man's behavior and his presence within a relationship. Ngoba lento we tinde last week about the ego, and we were talking about masculinity and being broken. All of those things, they come to light when you are in the presence of a woman who's self-actualized and stable and independent, because now your toxic or your fragile masculinity, your ego, your brokenness is uncomfortable in that space. You're not sure how to move and exist with a woman who's self-sufficient, who's here only because she wants you, but she doesn't need you. Yeah, one. And this Lisa, now it's kind of like that itch that you kind of hate because you want her to need you, but now she doesn't. And there's no leverage, there's no privilege, there's no hold that you can have over her because she is but she'll leave. You know what I mean? Like if she's saying it's because so I mentioned that because I'm interested. I'm enjoying seeing the dynamics in those relationships now when they have to change, because now I'm seeing men occupying spaces that they never thought they would occupy, and I'm studying and seeing their behavior and the energy and the way they move in that whole setup. So I think back to the intention and presence of it. Just I think once we have that figured out, we can take some steps.
With all that you have said, my brother, I'm not going to change anything. I fully agree with everything that you have said. And when you spoke about the self-actualized, the woman who knows, the woman who does all of these things, as a man as well, when you are there, a friend of mine said to me some time ago, Ati, as you are going through this, when I was sharing the process I'm going through, be sure that those that are close to you, and particularly the one that you are with, is moving equally so at the same pace, or is also doing the same thing, because they will be at this juncture, because you will start seeing things differently. I mean, like the man who is not unable to accept is a man who is not there, who is not accepted. So equally so, as a man who has reached a certain level of knowledge and understanding, or whatever, self-actualized. I mean, I'm taking to the self-actualization part, let alone the taking up space and all of that. That's Yaibona. the policies of the country and everything favors women, and which is a good thing because men have dominated from time immemorial. It's a very good thing. So for a man to accept that, men understand and know. So I'm just saying, from that self-actualization element and that knowing yourself and etc. That is where Ufi, when she said the reciprocity, I mean the coexistence, this is where then it comes in, because if we're not on the same wavelength, not aligned, what you said before, we got cut off, on the same level of vibration, we can't delay if we don't see things, if we're not on the same page. There'll always be clashes, there'll always be clashes. I have, or she has put herself there, I'm still here. This juncture will always show itself, or I've put myself here, she's put herself. So, it's just a very, very, very extremely difficult one. But I think long and short of it all, my brother, is to say, and my views at least, is to say, at least try, and as we put it at the beginning, and I'll always say it, the intentionality, the discussions at the beginning, the purpose, and the decision to stick it through, that is what I guess masters everything. So, that this is it. This is it. This is what we said we'll do. Go back to the drawing board, we rework, and we do it, and we move forward again. So from this element of relationships, I mean, as tough as it is, and with this not being the gospel truth, but from my perspective, and I guess we are agreeing, although coming from different ends, talking about this, that is how we will win this thing. That is how, not just as guys, at least from a guy's perspective, make sure that when you are there, and then make sure that she is also there. Then we move forward, because it's and it will not end nice.
Yeah, what's it, the cold truth is we know who pays the price more often than not.
Yeah, we don't have to.
We've seen this movie. Yeah, we've seen this movie 100 times, so we know who is on the receiving end. When we don't step up and handle business as we should. So I'm a firm believer insofar as I'm romantic relationships. As I said, I just don't think we're present enough in bed. I honestly I can never stress that enough. And funny would see the guys who are not present are the ones who usually take me up on that argument. So I find it very interesting. With more times I'm in exchange with the ones who are not fully there, that are coming at me, and we're having this.
You're challenging their beliefs. You're challenging the way they're working, and that's why.
Which is deliberate. Which I think we have to do. And even connecting to what you were saying earlier on about our friendships with our male friends, we don't hold each other accountable. But one of the main reasons why you love hanging out with your boys or the guys is because the boys and the guys don't hold you accountable. It's okay. It's just jokes, and we can move past it, and nothing gets resolved. So that's a good space to be in. Whereas umuntu wakho, she will tell you when you're stepping out of line. She'll tell you when you're up to no good. And when you're not used to being told that you're out of pocket, that environment is an itch. It's almost like you have to repel against it, and so you'd rather go out and hang with friends, which is again putting the issue and the onus on us. We don't hold each other accountable. So when one of us comes to us, there's a complaint. Instead of listening and then saying, okay, Bafo, but because that's who you need to be telling these things to, we'll sit, we will accommodate you to vent, we'll hype and gas you up and blow up your masculinity and your ego, and then send you back to her to go deal with whatever. So I think void is accountability. Yes, I don't think we are, and we should. That's the responsibility that we have to each other as friends, as brothers, as associates, as kin. Yo, ndoda, umuntu mumbone uphuma kulayini. Speak to him like, no, Bafo. We're not the people who should be hearing this. Umamu sendli, go fix lezinto endlini. Because tina sineze. So you can talk to us, but it won't fix your issue. And it doesn't help while we gas you up and then you go home. And the person who should have been hearing everything you were saying to us has no idea you've now offloaded. She's still waiting for you to communicate. So I think that presence, our dedication to our relationships through the uncomfortable and the unpleasant, but see we're consistently there, which is I'm gonna make this thing work. I'm gonna put it in my time. If it doesn't work, it will not be because I was holding back. No, I stepped out. I did everything I was supposed to.
My last closing comments. I think we've kept people here for too long. Puleng says that she feels that she hopes you won't take offense when she refers to you as a feminist. Last week or the week before, and this is my closing comments, and then you will then wrap up, my brother. We did speak about that, the new man, which the series is aptly titled, and the feminist, understanding how the people who are on the channel or on the IG Live, Ngalisos Kati, explained feminism, and also my reading and understanding of it. What women are fighting, we're fighting for is feminists, or what they're advancing, and what we are saying, we said we are sides of the same coin, because we are these things that there has been absolute male privilege and domination, and we're trying to get to a point where we say, how do we find each other? So what Ndie is saying is exactly what we are trying to stand for as in this conversation and in this series. And whatever spills over and whatever happens here on after, we'll see where it leads. But this is exactly what we're trying to do, to say, we hear you, we are there, we understand everything. And that's why they said we'll speak about it from the point of men. And that's why Skrubulo said to say conversations about men by men, but for everyone, because we know these things, and we're trying to work around them. So we can't, we will not have all the answers. Indeed, we can talk about this .bitcom until the cows go out to graze, indeed. But long and short of it all, we ventilated it, we've said all that, which we've had to say, at least from my side, and clearly there is a lot of room for improvement. There's accountability, but the key takeaway for me, is the intentionality and commitment to it. And if that is done, everything else is easy to do. And that's why Howie Kanye said, this is why it's important, so that it can clear the way and set it as we move ahead. So this is my closing comments for today on relationships. It's a load. There's so much that we can say, but I'll choose to stop here tonight.
Yeah. I think I have almost enough to ponder over now over the next couple of hours and days. We can never finish every conversation in one sitting. There are too many perspectives, but nevertheless, it's a start. We'll start and we'll keep going. Consistency is everything. Again, calls into question our realness. Are we being real? Because being real comes at a cost. Short answer, no, we're not being real. Again, back to our previous conversations, we're facading, we're performance. We're not being real as much as we should be. But yes, no, you've offered me some perspective and some insight that I now have to live with and digest. But again, just neither men nor women are saints, my friends. We don't have it all figured out. Women don't have it all figured out. The whole idea is to figure it out. It's the journey. So I know, So I'm often harsh or unapologetic when it comes to Abantu besilisa, but I'm never with the intention that Abantu besilisa are wrong about everything. There are issues that men have. There are issues that women have. I just speak for men because I'm a man. It's not my place to be first in line to be stoning Abantu besifazane but so Puleng, it's my first time joining the live chat, so thank you guys for addressing issues that are incongruent to the beliefs of our black men. We appreciate you, Puleng. We appreciate you. I don't like titles, so there was a feminism, no banbani. I'm cool. I hear them and I see them, but I think a lot gets lost in translation when we start labeling. We're human, we're people. So as far, my old approach is Singaband, and then we take everything from that point. But yes, no. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. The time was well spent. Thank you, Howie. We all learned, and hopefully we'll all continue to learn. Next week, Wednesday, I feel some type of way about Leo Fuzi, but it's cool. I have 7 days to get it warmed up. My brother, no.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you to everybody who took their time to join us this evening, and really appreciate all the feedback and the comments. I read a comment that was posted by Umbuso Kanyirela, which echoes Webster's point as well. And these two gentlemen happen to know each other. They've met once. Where Umbuso says, and it speaks to the same point, Webster, where he says, friendship without accountability is not real. So as men, as we move forward, let's always remember that. And that's my closing comment. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, everybody.
A good night to all of it. All love.